Hello, friends, and welcome back to the chakra series. We are on chakra number 2, or also known as the sacral in Sanskrit. Now, be kind to me. Svadhisthana. Svadhisthana is how you pronounce it in Sanskrit. Now, if you were to break down the word svadhish, it means one's own, or svad, to taste sweet. Now, this is the pelvic chakra. This is the desire center, our pleasure center. It also deals with change, polarities, movements, emotions, sexuality, clairsentience. It is the deals with the water element, which how ironic that we moved from the root chakra, which dealt with earth, and now we're into the sacral chakra, which is water. And the earth is basically made up of water. I hope you can hear me. And then we also have to think of it deals with the moon. Again, the moon affects the tides. It pulls the different tides. That's actually one of the first things I tell people who really aren't into astrology, which is fine. But I basically share with them, if we are of the world, we're on this planet, we have our little finite bodies, and then you have the moon that affects the tides of the ocean. Our earth is mostly water, and our body is mostly water. So we are affected by what goes on in the cosmos. Okay, moving on. It represents the color orange. It represents the sound vam, and it also means to feel. Okay. Now, the opposite, the demon, remember they call it the demon, but the opposite of when it's not in alignment, when your sacral is not in alignment, it's guilt. And remember, guilt ranks pretty low. It's right above shame on the emotion energetic frequency table. Now, with pleasure in particular, when you think of the sacral chakra, it's a two-edged sword, right? It's an easy chakra to get trapped in. And that could be for either way. Either you're denying yourself pleasures, or you're overindulging in the pleasures, right? So it's a fine balance to find that duality. Remember, one of the other words associated with this center is polarities, change, movement. So you have to make sure that you're moving like water. You're in and out. You're ebbing and flowing. Think of the ocean. Think of the tides. Another way to think about it is when we moved up from the root chakra, which, was a yang, it's a structured. And then this one is dealing with more yin energy, more flow, more feminine. Think the womb, think the moon. Women are ran off our cycles are run off of the moon cycles. The seat of life, it can represent not only ovaries and the womb itself, but it also can represent testicles as well. Any physical anatomy, body parts, sexual procreation type of things. Now, it also represents moving from solid to liquid. Again, there's that change. Those are polarities. Think of the water. It's ice, and then it's vapor, then it's water, then it's from stillness to movement. All the different changes and polarities. And you know me, I'm always talking about the duality of life. It's this and that. It's also associated with kidneys, the bladder, and the circulatory system. It's associated with Archangel Gabriel, which is known to be the messenger of God, giving the divine messages. And God is whatever that represents for you and your belief system. It also deals with fish and sea creatures. Again, we're dealing with the water, so of course. But we have to understand that with water, it's constantly moving, right? And it's important that we're also moving and changing. Change is fundamental. It's a fundamental element in our consciousness. Because if we're not changing, there's no growth. Consciousness thrives on it. We are constantly evolving and moving and growing and flowing, right? So the limbic system, or the pleasure and emotional sensations, is the limbic system, and it controls our hypothalamus, right? Which is our hormone levels, and the autonomic which is the involuntary nervous system, such as the heart rate, our blood pressure, our breath. So it's so important, again, how we see this beautiful dance between the chakra system and our nervous system. And when we understand how some things are involuntary, our autonomic is just going to, if our body feels like it's in danger, it goes into our fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, which changes our heart rate, which changes our breath, which changes our, these are all involuntary. We don't get to control that until we pull it back in to let our body know that we are safe. So the pleasure and emotional sensations deals with the limbic system, which controls the hypothalamus, which deals with the hormone levels and all of the nervous system functions. So soothing stimulation helps to regulate this part of our brain and our hormones. And we'll go into what that looks like in a bit. Now, another thing we have to think about is with pleasure. I already said it was like a two-edged sword. We also have to know that pleasure invites in surrender. When we're enjoying something, we're usually at ease. We're usually open, which is necessary for our spiritual awakenings, for us to be open, to be curious, to think about childlike wonder. Think about what could possibly be. Think about the the possibilities, the what could come next, the excitement of being open, of enjoying, of having pleasure, and also thinking about the pleasure. Our root center deals with the safety and survival and like fundamentals and earth and, being safe. And then once we have our needs met, now it's time to enjoy and play and relax, and flow. We've got the structure in place and now we can enjoy. So think about, you build a home and it's a lot of structure and yang energy, and you got the walls and the plaster and all things, but then you can move in with the flow, the yin, and start to decorate and put beautiful textiles and colors and all the fun stuff, right? So thinking about sensations and the second chakra, the sacral chakra, sensation is raw data that eventually is turned into like information for our brains to process. So think of the programs, our belief systems, and also our emotions, which we know is energy and motions, but it also is to move out, emote. So we have to move through these emotions, move them out of our bodies. We don't want them to become stuck and stagnant and cause dis-ease within our bodies, which leads to dis-ease. So when we see them tied together, the emotions and how they have to move out and creating movement with our emotions, right? That's why grounding is so good. Walking, moving that energy, emoting the emotions, moving energy and motion, letting it flow through all the cycles, understanding what it is trying to show us, teach us, and then letting it process all the way through. So it's a dance. And this is why movement is really, really important for the sacral chakra. So it also deals with clairsentience. Now, clairsentience is basically when you can sense others' emotions. Now, that's one of my clairsentience is one of my intuitions, way my body talks to me. And I find it so interesting when I read up on those who are clairsentients. And when you are first learning or understanding what it is, your gifts, now everybody has this to some degree, some more than others. It usually leads into more deeper psychic abilities and things like that if you decide to kind of cultivate and work that muscle. But it can be very disjointing if you're out in a large group of people and you start picking up on others around you. Some people call it empath, which can be similar, but it's a little bit different. Like I'm clairsentience with not just people, but with foods and trees and anything that has a vibration, which is everything basically, but of living thing, I'm able to read the energy off of it. And it could cause those who may be clairsentients to have like abrupt mood changes because you kind of take on somebody else's, especially if you haven't done the work on yourself. This is why grounding is absolutely imperative for those with this particular gift, this intuition, which is why grounding is one of my favorites. It helps to clear out the channel that I know which is mine and what is coming in that isn't of mine and create kind of an energy to support my nervous system so that I'm not taking on all these emotions of others, and how to move it through my body. So now, one of the ways we think about chakras, we have to understand that it came out of tantric philosophy. And now a lot of people hear tantric and they automatically think sexual. That's a small part of it, but tantric philosophy also embraces a combination of yogi and Hindu, masculine, feminine, spirit and matter, light and dark. Tantric really seeks to embrace rather than deny. It's like a dance of reuniting duality. It's not just about oneself, it's about others, it's about connection, it's about dancing, it's about duality, it's about polarity, it's about movement and understanding the cycles of life, the ebbs and flows of life. Now, one of the ways that we can best serve this second chakra is by nurturance, and that's basically caring for, feeding with energy, love, touch, 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 touch is such a important feature, skill, practice that we need as human beings. A simple act of touch. If you read studies on children who are born and they're not touched for the first little half, they become very isolated. They usually are sickly because they're not having that skin to skin interaction. They're not having that affection. They're not having that touching. Now, skin is sometimes considered the outer layer of our nervous system as well, because it also stimulates our limbic system. Remember, which is our pleasure and emotional sensations. So when we learn how to even, hugs are really important, especially if you can hug for 8 seconds. So make that part of your to-do list, hugging for 8 seconds. It helps to release the oxytocin in our bodies, and it really helps to activate that pleasure center, that surrender, that ease, that enjoyment. All right, let's see. So when we also want to think about supporting this system, we want to think about movements. Okay, so this is literally the hips and the lower abdomen. So this could be literally dancing, twerking, belly dancing. It could be pelvic exercises, walking. And another way to create nurturance for ourselves is anything to do with the water element. Water is so powerful. I actually made some moon water the other day. We had a full moon, and this is my moon water. I set out to be charged by the full moon's energy, and I speak loving words, affirmations, intentions into my water. And when you do this, it holds that vibration, because remember, everything has a vibration, everything has a frequency, and it brings that of the like. So when I speak that, I charge it by the full moon, and then I take it. And when I drink it, I actually envision myself bringing in those beautiful words of affirmations, those intentions, those desires. And I can see it moving through the cells in my body, fortifying me, helping clear my mindset, opening up new channels, neurons, whatever it may be. Use it as a mindfulness practice. And it's not just incredibly helpful to ingest water, but to be in water. So whether that's going to the ocean, the stream, the rivers, taking a bath, a shower, hot tubs, massages, because again, the touch, all these are beautiful ways to help strengthen not just the sacral chakra, but our nervous system, our limbic system, our pleasures, and our emotional states, so that we're able to surrender, so that we're able to have more change, which is fundamental in our consciousness to grow and to thrive. Another thing we want to think about is, speaking into the waters, bath, showers, now exercising with the hips and the pelvic. And we don't have to think of it as being like arduous and tedious. And I don't want to do that. It can be fun. Having a dance session is an incredible way. And think about dance. Dance can be very sexual. It can be very romantic. It can be there's a touch. It's all the movements, right? Think of the water and certain dances, and there's a rhythm and a flow. That is our second chakra, our sacral. So I want you to think about how you can activate and emulate and practice ways to move the body. It's not by coincidence that the hips in particular are important. Like, yes, it deals with sexuality and movement and pleasure, but the hips is a big trauma space. It stores a lot of emotion in our hips. And when we move, with rhythm and flow, it helps to release stuck energy. It helps to emote the emotions, move through the emotions to create more flow. So, I hope that this has been very helpful and educational for you. I would love to hear in the comments what it is that you're going to start implementing, whether it be taking more showers and envisioning the water washing off anything that doesn't serve you, ingesting beautiful words of love and peace and kindness and ease and prosperity and abundance and joy and whatever else you're desiring, or simply just laughing more, leaning into your pleasure more, getting more massages, hugging more. What does the pleasure center look like for you? I'll see you next week for chakra number 3. Bye-bye.